With regards to plants, we've already talked about photosynthesis and organs, including roots and stems and leaves. But what we want to focus on for a moment are when those organs of plants, roots, stems, and leaves, have to be modified to fulfill a greater purpose. So this figure shows you root hairs up close. Root hairs essentially make the roots look fuzzy. But what do you think they would actually be used for? Root hairs we look at as increasing the surface area of the root. Okay, well, why would that be important? Why does a root need high surface area? So if you look at the inset, they have little tiny water droplets drawn. Does that give you a hint? The water has to be absorbed by the root cells. If the root cells have trouble getting surface contact with the water, they will have difficulties absorbing the water. So, if we increase the surface area of the root by adding these root hairs, we've actually increased the potential for the plant to take up water from the soils. Now, that's a minor thing. We can get some very strange structures associated with plants, and in particular plant roots. So we look at modifications to these that are going to help not only bring in more water, but potentially store water or store food. Some of these modifications will help protect our plant. What can you think of that helps protect a plant? You might have said thorns, or some sort of bark or coating. All of these would be good answers. We can also look at modifications that help the plant do better at photosynthesis. Well, photosynthesis is already a fairly efficient process, but what's the one limiting factor? Okay, maybe there's two: water and sunshine. So if plants are constantly competing for water and sunshine, they may have modifications that will help them be better at getting water and sunshine. I have climbing listed for you. How does a plant climb? Well, look at this. If we look at the stems themselves, we can look at a couple of different options for modifications. I've listed a couple here for your review, but I want to show you the actual modifications. If you've ever picked strawberries, you know that strawberries are first very low to the ground and potentially hurt your back when you're picking them, right? But they are oh so tasty in June in New York. But when we look at how a strawberry plant reproduces, it actually reproduces asexually. The strawberry plants that you see in the field are clones of one another. They produce stolon or runners that branch out from the original plant and form new little plants in the soil when the soil conditions are right. This is terrific for asexual reproduction. Now, there are other modifications such as tubers and rhizomes associated with plants that increase the surface area and increase the storage capability of those modifications. So you've probably eaten a tuber at some point in your life. What would you call a common name for tuber? Potato? Right on. So when we look at these modifications, in the case of tubers and rhizomes, we look at storage of sugar. Well, do you remember how a plant stores sugar? It stores it as starch in its root structures and modified stem structures. We have some other modifications. We mentioned the ability to either climb or protect the plant. and these happen in modified leaves. So plants produce what we call tendrils. We see this a lot in pea plants and bean plants. They reach out these little tiny finger arms and wrap around and help support the plant. A pea plant is generally very weak, so its ability to reach out and attach to other plants, to fences if you're gardening, or to other structures allows the plant to grow taller and get more light for photosynthesis and support itself. As far as modified leaves for protection, you may have thought of thorns or cactus spines when I mentioned protection as a modification earlier. Again, just modified leaves.